Hi everyone, it's Bren here and welcome to a very windy and chilly garden here in New South Wales, Australia. And when I was dropping the kids off at school this morning, I couldn't believe what I was hearing on the news. They were saying that there is snowfall predicted for a lot of areas around this state over the next couple of days, which is just shocking to me because we only have 2 weeks to go until spring. Anyway, in this week's garden update, I'm going to share with you a recipe making kale chips, because I've got a lot of kale growing in the garden at the moment. I'll also show you around the greenhouse where I have a lot of little seedlings popping through. I'll also share with you how I'm adapting to not having my larger greenhouse this year. But what we're going to start off with, hold on a second, there's a train. Oh, it's gone now. It's just so loud. Anyway, let's start off with a new garden bed that got finished off this week. Down beside the lemon tree is a brand new garden bed for this year. It's mostly strawberry plants, but there are a few flowers popped in here too. There's some Alyssum, Calendula, which has its very first orange flower bud. At the back of the bed, up against the stone wall, I popped in a couple of these ruby chards. Also in amongst the strawberry plants, you can see there's lots of little seedlings. That's some more Alyssum. This area was where I had the bird feeder, and my son actually surprised me by setting up this garden bed. So he just moved it over slightly. It's still there. And he amended the soil for me. He sprinkled those little seeds where they're all germinating now that I just showed you. And this week I planted it up with lots of strawberries, and one of them even has flowers on it. This is actually my second attempt at having a garden bed for strawberries. I was going to say completely dedicated to it, but I couldn't help myself putting in those extra flowers along the edge. Always good to have them for the beneficial bugs and insects in the garden. Yeah, so last year I did a strawberry bed over in a different area. Let's quickly go over there and take a look at it. So this is where I had planned to have my strawberry patch, but I didn't take one thing into consideration, and it's this huge tree up here that when I planted in the strawberries, it was bare like it is now in late winter, but I didn't take into account that it would fill out again with foliage once spring arrived, and it did last year, and my strawberry plants really struggled in here. I ended up putting in quite a few flowers in here, like these Johnny Jump Violas and the Alyssum, which is a really great self-seeder in the garden. And these two flowers are edible as well. So they look pretty and they're nice for decorating different dishes. Over here, there's also quite a few spring onions, although it's a bit hard to tell where they are at the moment because I have a lot of grass that looks very similar growing in here. I need to do a bit of weeding. I did have some spare plants too, so I put in one foxglove. I had sprinkled some seeds, there's poppy seeds there. And over here at the back, there's a whole load of parsley, which is absolutely loving growing in this bed. I'm going to have to harvest some of this soon. We eat a lot of tabbouleh, which is a really delicious kind of side salad. So I must come and harvest a whole load of this. Maybe one day I'll show you my recipe. Over in this garden bed, I moved the rusty old wheelbarrow in here and I popped it there amongst the flowers, where in a few months' time they should grow up in amongst its frame. I did a bit of cutting back in this area of the garden. You can see here with the fountain grass, I gave a bit of a hack, although I still have a bit more to go. There's another clump up here which needs a good haircut before spring arrives. Today I want to share with you a very simple recipe using this Russian red kale. I'm going to harvest a few of these leaves now and make some kale chips. It's a really straightforward recipe using some oil and different seasonings. Let me show you now. Firstly, I'm going to pick off a few of these leaves. You don't actually need that many of them. I've just turned on my oven at 180 degrees Celsius, preheating it, and I've also removed the central stem of the kale. Then you just want to go and give this a quick rinse. Once that's done, I then use my fingers to break the kale into pieces about this size. This is so simple, and you can change the ingredient you use according to what you like, but I'm just going to sprinkle with a bit of olive oil, a pinch of salt, and some smoked paprika. Give it a quick toss to make sure that the leaves are covered. Then you just place these in the oven for about 10 minutes, but you have to keep an eye on them because you don't want them to burn. I've just taken them out of the oven and they are now ready. I think I may have been slightly heavy-handed with drizzling the oil over the top. You could probably put in a lot less than I did. But you can see there that they're actually gone really crispy. Let me bite into this one so you can hear it. They taste really good, and I love the way you can put different toppings on them. So you can even put, like, you know, spicy powdered chilies on it as well. I think that would go well with them. You could also use, you know, the oil in spray cans. If you use that, I think you get a more even spread with a lot less oil over the top. There is an awful lot going on here in this greenhouse. These African marigold seedlings are ready to be potted up. I know that most of these are ready to pot on because you can see here at the top they've started to develop their true leaves. So when a seed germinates, you will notice the first set of leaves, which are actually called cotyledon, and they are the leaf of the embryo. They're actually not really the proper leaf of the plant. You need to wait until these ones here appear before you can transfer them, and then oftentimes it's good to wait until they're a certain height as well. I can see that these seedlings are about 1.5 inches. They're looking pretty strong. It's starting to get a bit crowded here in this little pot, so I will be dividing them up this weekend, and hopefully in a few weeks time they'll be double or triple in size. Here's another little container from the greenhouse. In here I have some Cosmos Daydream seedlings. Do you notice how they are slightly tilted over to this side? That means that they haven't been getting enough light and they're actually stretching for it. I do notice too that they're quite leggy. They shouldn't really be this long of a stem, and they haven't even produced their true leaves yet. This one here even still has part of the seed attached to it. These are not ready to transplant yet. I'm going to leave them in here a bit longer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move them to the front of the greenhouse so they get a lot more sun, and hopefully that will amend the problem. I'll just leave this guy there. Here I have lots of everlasting daisies. These ones are copper, and then down here I have these tall mix, and you've probably noticed there that I've been very heavy-handed with sowing the seeds, and that's because I find I have to be, especially with an organic garden, because between the time you sow the seeds to the time the plants flower, I will lose quite a lot of these to garden pests. I'll also give a lot away as well, and I probably won't even pot up every single one of these, but it's always better to be sow more than you need. I've definitely learned that over the years. There's some calendulas in here. These ones are called Emperor Gold. I already have larger plants out in the garden, but I'm going to plant these out too to continue a succession of them. So once those other ones die off, I'll be able to have fresh ones here. And the thing about calendulas in the area where I live is they don't do well during summertime. So my replacement kind of flower for these will be the ones I had just shown you, the African marigolds. Globe amaranth, tall mix. Do you remember last year I grew the red variety? Well, this year I am going to go with lots of different colours of these. So many more seeds. In here are the Mexican flower hats. I tried to get some of these seeds last year and I didn't have any success, so when I was able to get my hands on them, I was just so delighted. And this year I'm going to have some lovely, beautiful, unusual looking flowers. I cannot wait to show you what these guys look like. Here are some salvia tricolours. They're an annual salvia. I grew these last year as well. My friend put me onto them one day when she brought me around a posy from her garden. I absolutely fell in love with these. Excited to have them again. In this tray I have 6 varieties of tomatoes, green zebra and tigerella, ram's horn and brandywine red, and in here there's some yellow pear, and I'm still waiting on the black Roma icicles to germinate. No sign of them yet. I might put some more seeds in here, but I do know that they are a little bit older, so usually when seeds are a bit older they're not as viable and you may not get good germination with them. And just by looking at these, look how much they're leaning over to the light. I'm really going to have to sort out this greenhouse and juggle things around so that they get all the light requirements that they need. Because I only have the little greenhouse this year, I've created this little makeshift propagation area, which is a bit of an experiment. A lot of the seeds that I've sown here, I usually wait till early spring to get them going. Although it looks a little bit crazy, there is a reason why I have set them up this way. First of all, I have them all up against our brick house, which this area receives full sun. It's a little bit of a microclimate. The bricks absorb the heat during the day and they slowly release it in the evening and night time. So it's lovely and warm here, a lot better than if I was just to place these elsewhere in a more exposed area. The other thing that I've done here as well is I have covered all of the trays with the seeds in them with cling wrap. Cling wrap should give it a bit of extra warmth, and as well as that, it helps retain the moisture. And one more thing I did do was this week I found these really big barbecue trays. They were $2 each. So if I was to go out and buy propagating trays, they would be a lot more expensive than that, and I'll be able to reuse these again and again. And if they do get any holes in them, all I have to do is scrunch them up into a ball, because they're made out of aluminium, and pop them into the recycle bin. You can see here that I placed some water in the bottom, so it waters these trays here from the bottom up. I'm just going to have to keep an eye on them, and once I do see seeds germinating, I will remove these covers here, because if I left them on, it would cause the seedlings to kind of sweat and they could possibly die off. This is one of my favourite pots at the moment, with these beautiful big cheery flowers which are called Polyanthus. They are actually a perennial plant in the Primula family, but here where I live we treat them more as annuals. They are just so colourful. I think next year I'm going to plant a lot more of these. Absolutely love them. I'll just give these to the girls to enjoy. There you go. Thanks so much for watching everyone again this week. I will see you all next Friday.